Right after the visit, the main thing is obvious. Halit is not asking for help. He is storing up anger. He pushes Zeniha away even where she could be useful, and after a conversation like that, the most logical expectation is that in the next episode, he will move not toward peace, but toward a counterattack. Halit separately spells out that he is not broken and that he will get out. For the continuation, this is a direct hint. His line will most likely be built not around the trial itself, but around how he is already preparing revenge against the people he sees as guilty. When Zeniha hits the sore spot and links the blood between the brothers directly to Halit's pride, the conflict does not close, it only sharpens. After words like that, you can expect Halit to fix even harder on rewriting who is to blame and accusing everyone around him again. Even in prison, the first thing Halit asks about is not himself, but Mukarram. That matters more than all his swagger. Judging by that insistence, in the next episode he will likely try to reach her either directly or through anyone still willing to work with him. Mukarram's line is held together not by romance, but by fear of losing her child and being left without support again. That is exactly why any talk about help will most likely run not into her feelings, but into the question of who she would even risk trusting with the baby. After the words about Nuzhat's death, Mukarram does not switch into mourning, but panic for her son. The next move is already planted here. As long as she believes the child can be taken from her, she will keep running and breaking every attempt to pull her back under someone else's control. Nuzhat's return is framed as something that should rearrange the entire house. And because the welcome is so grand, the next episode will likely start testing right away whether he is actually ready to carry the authority everyone is already assigning to him. Noor is not just happy about her son's arrival. She immediately declares Nalan the lady of the house and launches the wedding like a political move. That means this line will most likely head toward a public consolidation of power, not just family happiness. While the mansion talks about celebration, Mukarram is thinking about how to pay rent and where to work at night. That contrast pushes the plot forward. Her weak position makes her an easy target for pressure. And if you enjoy breakdowns like this, drop a like and subscribe. The package from Murat with money and promises to solve the apartment issue sounds less like help and more like the first hook. After a gesture like that, the most likely outcome is that the price of this help will surface even more harshly in the next episode and hit Mukarram again. Noor states her goal out loud. She wants the child, and she is planning to send Halit the bill too. That is a strong pointer for what comes next. Most likely she will apply pressure on two fronts at once, searching for her grandchild and keeping the revenge line alive. Nuzhat's conversation with Zeniha begins almost warmly, and that is a dangerous detail for everyone else. If he is still willing to listen to her specifically, then in the next episode Zeniha could easily become the person through whom the uncomfortable truth about Mukarram reaches him. Nuzhat is no longer looking for Mukarram as a beloved woman. He is looking for the child. After wording it like that, it makes sense to expect that his next move will be not about past feelings, but about trying to get his son and settle things through family power. Nalan is given the chance to back out of the wedding, but she insists herself. So she most likely will not retreat, and in the next episode, she will start defending her place beside Nuzhat more sharply, especially if she senses a threat from Mukarram and the child. Noor directly ties the wedding and power into one knot. After the ceremony, her son is supposed to lead the family. So the next episode will almost certainly continue not the romantic side of the wedding, but the struggle over whether Nuzhat will accept the role forced onto him. And right away an open threat appears. Fikret is getting out of prison and may demand what is his. This is no longer background. It is fuel for the next episode. The most logical move here is a collision between the wedding and the return of a man who does not accept the new balance of power. At the same time, the investigation line is moving. Mukarram is still being spoken about as missing, and around her there are only versions and rumors. Because of that, any new information about her in the continuation could instantly flip the positions of Noor, Nalan, and Nuzhat all at once. The scene with Murat matters because he stops hiding his intentions and practically trades money for access to her body. After a conversation like that, you can expect this exact moment to give Mukarram a new push to run, because staying there is already simply dangerous for her. When Seher instantly believes not Mukarram but her fiancé, you can see how easily a crowd forms against her. Against that backdrop, the pressure on Mukarram will most likely come not from one person, but from an entire environment where no one believes her. At this moment, Nuzet talks only about the child again, while Nalan is already painting a picture of their future family. That gap is exactly where the next conflict grows from. He is thinking about his son, she is thinking about their home, and those two goals still do not match. After the attacks, Mukarram breaks down not because of one episode, but because of accumulated lies, humiliation, and fear. So in the next episode, it makes sense to expect not a calm decision, but a sudden move from her, simply to avoid falling back into the same hands. Seher storms straight to the house and makes the scandal public. A scene like that rarely ends with noise alone. Judging by everyone's reaction, this slander will most likely stick to Mukarram for a long time and complicate all future talk about the child and her right to him. When the crowd demands that Mukarram be thrown out, not only from work but from the house as well, she is being pushed out of every safe place at once. That is exactly why her line in the next episode will most likely move through forced hiding and dependence on someone else's will. The news that Nuzet is alive and already with his mother instantly changes the value of every next decision. For Halit, it is a threat to the case. For Noor, it is a chance to regain control. So old scores will most likely start converging faster and more harshly from here. After hearing that Nuzet has recovered, Halit suddenly agrees to talk to Zeniha. That is telling. When the balance changes, he changes tone immediately. In the continuation, you can expect him to seek not only revenge, but also a Vigudni bargain to get out. The prosecutor gets word that Mukarram has been found, but almost immediately it turns out she has slipped away again. That sequence points very directly to the continuation. Her search will turn into a race, where every minute decides who reaches her first. On the bench, Mukarram is left with no home, no belongings, and no plan. After hitting that bottom, the most likely next move is that she will cling not to the person she trusts, but to whoever first offers shelter and protection for the child. Zeniha asks Shazia for the address almost like a rescuer, but at the same time she immediately takes control of the situation. That is an important hint. In the next episode, Zeniha will most likely try to become the mediator between Mukarram and the people she is running from. Mukarram does not argue over details. She goes straight to the root and says it all started with that first meeting and someone else's game. After a conversation like that, the next episode may well raise Zeniha's old guilt, not through hints, but directly to her face. Zeniha admits that a small push turned into an avalanche, and Mukarram answers not with talk of love, but with the loss of any meaning in life. So the next part of this line will likely be held not by memories, but by trying to stop Mukarram from making another desperate choice. The news that Nuzet is alive hits Mukarram harder than any scandal. Her escape was built on one version of the world, and that version has collapsed. So in the next episode, she most likely will not be able to just keep hiding, and will have to decide whether to reach out. When Zeniha clarifies that Nuzet has already returned, and even offers to call him, Mukarram immediately pulls back. Judging by that reaction, the continuation looks like delay first. She is not ready to face him yet, which means the tension will only keep building. Nuzet shows from his very first words that he is not going to respect Fikret's return just because he is older. That is a direct setup for what comes next. The next episode will most likely move their conflict quickly from barbed lines into a struggle for real influence. Zeniha brings Mukarram into the house openly now, against her mother's wishes. After a step like that, you can expect that Zeniha's house will become the pressure point in the next episode. Nalan's claims, Noor's anger, and possibly Halit through calls will all converge there. The moment everyone hears that Mukarram has a son by Nuzet, the news of the wedding rises beside it at once. That link is too harsh to feel accidental. So the child will likely become a direct shadow over the wedding and a reason for new demands on Nuzet. Nuzet reacts calmly to his uncle's return, but in the very next second he turns the talk back to the search for the child. Judging by that priority, In the next episode, he may suddenly sideline even the family conflict if there is any real chance to get a lead on his son. Nur warns her son in advance not to mention Mukarrem's name in front of Fikret. That is a clear fear that a new side of the conflict could get too powerful a lever. After a line like that, it makes sense to expect Fikret to reach this secret very quickly and start using it. Fikret enters, not like a relative, but like a man, immediately checking whether Nuzet can be broken into a gesture of submission. From an opening like that, the next episode will most likely bring a line of psychological pressure, where he tries to show his nephew his place. Nuzet refuses to kiss his hand and immediately gets hit back with talk about origin and the right to hold a place in the family. This is no household quarrel. The most likely next move here is that Fikret will attack Nuzet's legitimacy as the future head. The moment Fikret learns whose daughter Nuzet has chosen, he reads the marriage at once as a political move, not a personal one. So it makes sense to expect him to destabilize the wedding, not only out of spite, but as a way to hit his nephew's position. The scene of punishing the servant is there not just for cruelty itself, but to show what kind of order Fikret considers normal. After a lesson like that through fear, he will likely try to spread the same model to the family, the house, and Nuzet himself. Fikret says it plainly. It is not the loved one who rules, but the one people fear. Against Noor's plan to make Nuzet head of the house, this sounds like a ready-made front for the next episode. Nuzet will be pulled between his own idea of strength and his uncle's. Halit offers Zeniha a deal. Freedom in exchange for the mother's share, and for Nuzet and Noor withdrawing their complaints. This is no empty threat anymore, but a concrete plan. So he will most likely try to press, not with fists, but through a legal loophole and other people's interests. And then Halit also learns that Mukarrem has been found, and that Nuzet's wedding is coming soon. For him, that is almost a perfect set of targets. In the next episode, he will likely try to tie those two pieces of news into one blow against the people who now feel like winners. The moment Fikret hears about Mukarrem and the child, he immediately orders everything to be found out. More than any theory, that shows where the line is heading. He has seen an instrument in this story, one that can knock the ground out from under both Noor and Nuzet. Nalan learns about Mukarrem's return not from the family, but accidentally through a loose phone call. From that reaction, it is clear she will act fast and nervously. Most likely, it is the fear of losing her place beside Nuzet that will push her into even harsher moves. In the talk with Nalan, Mukarrem gets direct confirmation for the first time that they really wanted to take the child from her. After that conversation, her distrust only hardens. So in the next episode, she is unlikely to believe any peaceful promises coming from Nur's house. Nalan does not argue about the past. She immediately asks Mukarrem not to appear before Nuzet and offers money for her disappearance. That is a very precise hint for the continuation. She will most likely try not to understand, but to remove the threat by any means she has. After everything, Noor once again brings the conversation back to one thing. Her son must lead the house. But almost immediately, Fikret appears and pushes into his space again. So the next episode seems likely to revolve around who will bend Nuzet first. An ordinary toy turns into another test of submission, and Nuzet no longer gives it up without resistance. This small scene hints well that he is unlikely to keep enduring quietly. Most likely his answer to Fikret will soon become sharper and more visible. Fikret gets confirmation that Mukarrem is the enemy's wife and the mother of Nuzet's child. After that set of connections, he has almost a ready-made map for a strike. It makes sense to expect him to look for her not out of pity, but to pressure the family. In prison, Halit is already celebrating. Nuzet has recovered, which means they soon cannot hold him only on the expectation of consequences. Judging by his tone, he will be even more overconfident in the continuation, and may underestimate that the blow will come before any release. Halit calls Zeniha himself, and asks her at least to let Mukarrem hear his voice. This is an important turn. Now he is clearly ready to go through her. So in the next episode, Zeniha will almost certainly end up under double pressure, caught between her brother and Mukarrem. But by that point, Mukarrem has already vanished from Zeniha's house without warning. So the line moves even further away from simple reconciliation. Most likely, the next episode will make her not an object of waiting, but a person who chooses herself, whom to reveal herself to, and when. The attack on Halit in prison lands at the exact moment he feels in control. And the words about greetings from the Kizilbags immediately widen the conflict. After that, you can expect his line to run not only through court, but through a direct threat to his life. The finale gathers the most likely shape of the next episode. Nusa is solemnly given the ring of the family head. Fikret is already looking for leverage in the story of Mukarrem and the child, and Mukarrem herself has disappeared again. The main conflict now seems likely to be not the wedding, but who reaches her first and turns the child into a weapon.